Hello and welcome to our second series of Hair and Beauty Technical Qualification webinars. Today we will be looking at 6002 Hairdressing and Barbering Technical Qualifications. Only these qualifications we'll be looking at today. I'm Sarah Fiona and I'm your Technical Advisor for Hair and Beauty, and we are also joined today with Hairdressing and Barbering Principal Moderators Debbie, Caroline and Brenda. We'll be running through some hints and tips to support you with your Synoptic assignment. The PMs are on hand to support you with any questions that you may have. So let's move on to some housekeeping and general and the agenda. So we are presenting this webinar, excuse me, from home and different parts of the country. So please bear with us if you hear any background noises. Let's do a technology check. Please confirm that you can hear me by raising your hand using the hand function in the GoToWebinar toolbar at the right-hand side of your screen. Please use a question box to enter any questions, and we will be monitoring these questions as we move through the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and you will receive a copy as you registered to attend. You will also receive a CPD certificate. As you can see here, we have a webinar feedback survey link and a QR code. If you could please give us feedback on this webinar today, because it does help shape our webinars in the future that suit you and your needs. Let's move on to the agenda. So we'll be looking at the assessment structure of a technical qualification, as we may have some new centres on board who want to understand the 60-40 split. Progression to university, valuable resources and important dates, preparation for delivery of the technical qualifications, this year's synoptic assignment. We'll be going over the written exam, completing documentation, further support and resources, useful contacts, and then we'll be looking at the questions that have come into the chat box. So our Key Stage 5 Technical Qualifications allows learners to progress onto apprenticeships, employment, or to a related higher educational course. In addition, our technical qualifications can also be used alongside traditional academic courses like GCSEs and A-levels for a more flexible approach to learning. So let's take a look at the assessment structure. The assessment strategy for technical qualifications are similar to GCSEs and A-levels and is based around the summative assessment at the end of the course. So for each technical qualification, there will be a substantial synoptic end assignment, which makes up of 60% of the qualification. This will require the candidate to be able to draw from and apply knowledge, skills and understanding from a breadth of the mandatory qualification concept in an integrated way. Also, there will be one end external assessed theory exam, and this makes up 40% of the qualification. The questions will be drawn from the critical knowledge across the mandatory qualification content. Each qualification has a mandatory unit, and some qualifications have optional units too. And we also have our employer involvement in all Key Stage 5 technical qualifications. So if we look at the two main elements in more detail, technical qualifications have been designed and endorsed by employers, providing up-to-date, highly relevant skills and graded assessments. A practical and applied approach to assessment ensures staff have more time to focus on teaching and learning for more successful outcomes. And technical qualifications comprise these elements. The synoptic assignment. This assignment in which two or more areas of learning are brought together in a single assessment. This approach has been adopted for technical qualifications in order to help learners make the connection between areas of learning and to promote holistic delivery and understanding of the subject. The synoptic assessments are comprised of a practical assignment and a written examination. The assignments are externally set, internally marked and externally moderated. And they're designed to access a specific or optional task or area of the qualification. To do this, the candidate will be required to identify, use effectively and appropriately a selection of skills, techniques, concepts, theories, knowledge from across the whole content. Now, the examinations are externally set, externally marked, and will be set online through City and Guilds computer-based assessment platform. The exam assesses the depth and breadth of the candidate's understanding and of the mandatory content within the qualification. So if we move on to our employer involvement, for all key stage 5 technical qualifications, employer involvement is required. That must be successfully met in order for the learner to achieve this qualification. Although it does not contribute to the overall qualification grading, employer involvement in the delivery and/or the assessment of these qualifications is essential for all candidates and will therefore be externally quality assured by City and Guilds. The EQAs will review the centre employer involvement plans at the approval stage, and then the quality team will sample the evidence at cohort level when the centre submits at the end of each academic year. Now, if we look at the optional units, these assignments are externally set and internally marked and externally moderated, and are designed to, again, assess a specific option task in an area of the qualification. To do this, the candidates will be required to identify and use effectively and appropriately, again, their skills, their techniques, concepts, theories, and knowledge from across a whole content area. All elements are mandatory to achieve a technical qualification, although employer involvement is the only requirement for the quals. However, only the Synoptic Assignment contributes towards that final grade. There is no direct claim status for any of the components, so centres will not be able to claim results themselves. Now, this is our progression to university for our Key Stage 5 Level 3 qualifications, which are recognised by UCAS. So our Level 3 technical qualifications can help a learner progress into university. The UCAS tariff points that our Level 3 technical qualifications carry are aligned with A-levels, depending on their grades and size. And by undertaking a technical qualification, a learner can strengthen their application for an undergraduate degree in the UK. City and Guilds technical qualifications are practical courses that have been designed with employers for 14 to 19-year-olds. They have been recognised on par with GCSEs and A-levels and carry UCAS points at Level 3. And these qualifications, you can progress onto an apprenticeship, university, or go straight into employment. Now let's look at some of our technical qualification support and resources that we have for you. Now, this is just a real reminder for all the resources that we have on our technical web page on our website. So yeah, just a reminder of the generic resources available for you. So there's a link there for you to follow to access the all these resources. So we have our welcome pack. We have a welcome pack that comes out every year in September, and this pack is really, really important because it gives you all the key dates for your diary, so you can make sure that you can register when you know exactly when to register the learners, when to register them for their exams, their written exam, to register them for the synoptic, when the first spring series exams come in to play, and also the summer series. So with that checklist and that the dates for your diary is really important. Now, every course for myself should have a technical checklist. As you can see there, it's in blue, red and white. Now, this should be at the front of your course file because it tells you every single month what you should be doing with your learners and what you need to submit or what you need to register. So again, every course should have one of those, and if you tick the little box at the bottom, then you know that you've actually done that month, you've done your job that month, and there's nothing that we're going to be chasing you for. We also have our teaching and learning and assessment guide. It's in the bottom of the left-hand corner, and we have our marking and moderation guide at the top of the right-hand corner. And these two guides are really, really important because you are using a different assessment strategy when you are, marking these learners. So I really would familiarise yourself with these two important documents. As you can see, the red box in the middle, this is our resource support on the page of the technical page. And if you go down into events and webinars, there are four really, really, really good webinars for you to look at. So there's the delivery webinar, that's number 1. So if you just go down there, if you do those, watch those webinars in order, and I would watch those webinars with the teams or get your teams to look at them on their own and then come back and do some standardisation from the webinars. They will help you to deliver the qualifications effectively and help you to get the most out of your learners. We also have our moderation portal guide, and I would suggest everybody, to really familiarise yourself with the moderation portal centre user guide. This really explains all the processes and it tells you how to upload your marks and evidence. Now, this webinar is the webinar that when a new centre engages with us and they're going to run technical qualifications for the first time, our technical team send out the first steps webinar. And again, this is something I would go back over, whether you've been doing technicals for a couple of years or you're new to them. This is a real must, first steps. It helps you to prepare for the delivery of the technical qualifications. And again, I will be working with my teams on standardisation of the webinars that we have on here to support you. I've come back to this one again because I do think it's important, so if you've got your first steps and then you work onto the 4 parts of the guide to synoptic assessment for centres webinars, these will really, really help you, and I've put the link there for you. Now, these are the resources that we've got for you that are on our 6002 web page. So we have the Qualification Handbook. Now, this is the nuts and bolts of what you need to deliver to get your learners fully prepared for the endpoint, for the Synoptic Practical Assignment and the Knowledge Exam. We have the Synoptic Practical Assignment and Knowledge Exam. So our writers can only use the content within the Qualification Handbook, and they write around the depth and breadth of the knowledge you have delivered to your learners. We have our Synoptic Assignment. They are password protected, and you can get that from the Wall Garden. You really need to read and thoroughly familiarise yourself with the Synoptic Assignment, and then you will know exactly what is expected from yourself and the delivery to the learner. And for me, it's a teaching and learning tool, that Synoptic Assignment, because you're preparing them for that end trade test. We have qualification reports, they're on the website. They're not password protected. They tell you how the learners performed last year in the Synoptic Assignment and the Knowledge Exam. And they're really, really interesting. Our principal moderators spend a lot of time putting these reports together. So really make sure you have a look at these. It is just another tool for you to use so you can improve and make sure your learners get the best opportunity to get the best grades they can. Your principal moderators report gives you an insight into how learners did in the Synoptic Practical Assignment, and it gives you a national overview, a national picture, and can help you understand what the pass mark was and how many learners got a pass and merit a distinction or a distinction star. Again, you've got your Chief Examiner's report. This is an insight into how learners did in the spring and the summer series in the written exams. Past papers, there's lots of past papers on there for you to help prepare your learners with that knowledge exam. And we do have past sample synoptics. You're probably using these now for mock assessments with your learners. If not, I would suggest you do this to help the learners to showcase their skills on the day. I've also put on here for you a level 2 and a level 3 hairdressing and marking standardisation support webinar from YouTube, and these are all about marking and they're done by the principal moderators, so they will help prepare you in what is a good pass or a high pass, or could be a low pass. Or it could be a fail. So I would suggest as a standardisation, before you go into your final synoptic, you would have a look at these webinars that are really valuable tools and resources for you to help your learners. Now, if we look on formative assessment, I mean, it's something for myself at the moment. A lot of my time would be with formative assessment, helping the learners, to feel comfortable on the day. I mean, for myself, I would probably do my first formative assessment, which would be a mock, just after half-term October, and I'd be working to the synoptic of what I've learned and what I've taught them up to October. I would want them to actually deliver that in an exam way, if you like. My second formative or mock would be just before Christmas, and we know by the time Christmas comes, we have taught them an awful lot. And I would be expecting my learners to run a column for themselves on that day, and that'll be really prepping them for their final synoptic assignment. You could do another one just in February before you start enter them into the final one, which may be April or May, depending on the centre. But all these tools are here for you to really help you, be able to work with the learner, understand exactly what you're marking against, because you're not assessing here, you are marking, you're giving marks for the learner's work. So this slide, really, it's all about the preparation for delivery. We've put this together. A few examples of good practice have been spotted by moderators in some centres, so we thought we'd share them with you. So we feel that this is an excellent idea, which, like I say, one centre, a couple of centre teams carried out, having discussions about the synoptic, making sure that everybody's on the same page when they're completing the relevant forms, like the PO form and the candidate record form. Again, completing at the beginning of the year when we ask you to look at the synoptic, and if you're not too sure, complete the form and email us any queries that you may have. This will really set you in good stead for the rest of the academic year. Also looking at the delivery plan and considering all the dates you need to adhere to. Each year you'll receive a moderator feedback, and it would be an excellent idea to look at the last few years if you're delivering that along, and really take the time to start at the start of this academic year to understand how to put their suggestions into place, deciding who will undertake the IQA stroke lead moderator. It's a huge part of the process. It's imperative that this aspect of delivery is not forgotten and that all quality assurance does occur. Sometimes we see templates will hinder or help a learner, so reviewing them and making sure they are just blank templates will really support your learners, because it'll make them think, it'll make them understand what they've got to do at the end. And finally, planning when the synoptic will take place. Working backwards from the required date, you need to upload your evidence to the moderation portal, and then considering how long to mark an IQA or standardise this process. This will allow you to manage the process more efficiently, as all 5 points can take place in that initial planning stage or staff meeting. And I really think this is an excellent idea for you to follow moving forward. It might be too late for some of you this year, but I hope for next year you'll use this model. Now let's go on to our 602 Hairdressing and Barbering Synoptic Assignment. So as you can see here, we have our Level 2 Technical Certificate in Barbering, Technical Certificate in Hairdressing at Level 2, our Technical Certificate in Cutting and Styling at Level 2, and we have our Technical Certificate in Hair Colouring Services. And this Level 2 certificate has optional units. Then we have our Level 3 Advanced Technical Diploma in the Barbering Qualification with optional units, and the Level 3 Advanced Diploma for Hairdressing with optional units. So again, the assessments for these qualifications, there will be a knowledge exam, dated paper, online or paper-based, synoptic assignment, that will be released at the beginning of the academic year, and the employer involvement. And as we say, three of those qualifications hold optional units. Two most important documents for your teaching and delivery are the Qualification Handbook and the Assessment Guide. And these can be found on the landing page for 6002. For myself, you teach your handbook as your teaching syllabus and you teach everything in pink. But when it comes to the exam, not every unit in the handbook will be tested on that exam. It will only be critical knowledge. And as you can see from the top right hand side of the screen, content assessed by the exam, it tells you exactly what units will be in that written exam, and it will tell you the unit, the learning outcome and the topic and the marks awarded for that exam. So for myself, I would be using this handbook and the exam guide, and where it says, unit 301, learning outcome topic, I would be putting a little revision sign there, knowing that that was going to be in the exam, because I know I'd have to come back and work with my learners to be able to make sure they've got all the knowledge across this unit, to make sure that they got a really good mark in that exam paper. So if we look at barbering, our level 2 barbering, here we've got the structure of the qualification. You can see there are 6 units in the qualification. We have the total qualification time, and we also have the mandatory theory exam, the Synoptic, with all the codes there for your component numbers and your employer involvement. And the same for our level 3 barbering. We have the structure of the qualification here, the total qualification time, and again the requirements for employer involvement, the mandatory qualifications, which is your exam, your mandatory units, which is all from your exam, and your synoptic, and the optional units within that qualification. Now I'm going to hand over to Brenda, our principal moderator. Brenda is going to go through both assignment briefs. Hi, Brenda. Hello. Well, I don't think Brenda's here, so I will go through the assignment, the assignment briefs with you. So again, you get these assignment briefs at the beginning of September, and you can't actually give this brief until the beginning of the new year, in the January or February, to your learners. But you are working with these briefs, and obviously when you go onto the synoptic assignment, you know, it is task 1, task 2, and task 3. So for task 1, you know, what I've got my notes I've got down here is add images and research styles, annotations on images, show that they've got knowledge and understanding. So they need to have a personalised plan for their models, making sure that everything they do is personalised. They need to also consider factors that might influence the cutting and finishing techniques, and this goes for level 2 and level 3 barbering assignments. Really, really important there. And for myself, I would be, I'd have one PowerPoint presentation per learner. The first slide would have the learner's name and number on there, the centre name and number, and each slide would have one picture and annotations. And as I stated, you know, the annotations really help show the knowledge and understanding, and it shows a personalised plan for the model. And I would consider factors, and you could put the factors on there of why they chose that model, and it really, really will help them to showcase the skills, really.
Can you hear me now?
Is that Brenda?
Yes, it is.
Oh, Brenda.
I'll have to go into my settings to sort it all out. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll just go through this now, and then if you want to come in at the end.
Yes, I'll do that. Okay.
So task 2, you know, consultation notes to include model requirements, style objectives, you know, what were the influencing factors for those that style objective. Task 3, candidates, they really need to know for task 3 how to evaluate their work. It's a really, really important factor here, because, you know, something could go wrong on the day. And if they can, you know, if something's gone wrong on the day, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll fail, but because if they can evaluate what went wrong and what they would do next time and how they try to adapt it to bring it back online, then that is absolutely fantastic. Nothing goes perfect 100% of the time. You know, we are human, you know, we do make errors, but it's knowing that when you've made your error and how to rectify it. And that evaluation is really, really important. So encourage practice, looking at the factors, and plan that consultation. Reference tools, products and techniques. A lot of people as well, learners, miss off shampooing services and drying and finishing, bringing it all together. So it's got to be an all-round. Centre staff who have notes onto the PO forms need to refer to the shampoo service as well as drying. I think that's really important, and both haircuts and facial cuts. And then for level 3, must complete restyles on both facial hair and haircuts on different hair classifications. And these should be creative, demonstrating advanced skills for both cutting and finishing. And shaving services sometimes lack documented evidence by the candidate, like skin condition, referring to anatomy, products used, why they've used the products, the techniques, the ability to use those techniques, and their own professionalism. So what would come around in an all-round thing with level 3 is sometimes they lack the polish to the finishes, the finished result with the drain and the finishing products that they use. So really, again, ensure candidates take advantage of the full time allocated to complete all these tasks. And now I'll hand over to Brenda to see if she has any more content to add.
Thank you. Yeah, basically, I mean, at the start, when you first give them the assignment brief, which is not the task, it's just the brief, is make them really think about the models they select to actually achieve what they need to achieve on the assignment brief, so that they've got enough hair for them to be able to remove sufficiently to achieve the results they want, and that also that the actual models have the commitment to turn up for them and on time, because quite a few are let down by that. So that is quite important, because at the end of the day, if they end up working on somebody they've not planned for, it does throw them off a little bit. Again, as Sarah said, is making sure then when they are working through this, that task one and the planning includes some of their research images that they've done of how that will suit the client that they are working on and how they're planning to achieve this. And then on task two is to carry out all this, which should follow on from task one. And on those notes in there for the consultation is to note down anything they've picked up on the clients with the different factors that will influence that cut. If they're working on two different hair classifications, it also gives them the opportunity to showcase more skill, which enables them to actually prove their ability more so. Then on the evaluation is to really make sure that they actually pull the whole thing together, reflect on what went well and how they could even improve that further, and also what didn't go quite so well and how that could be addressed. And any issues and problems that they had, whether that's blended in, how they found that difficult and why they think that was, what they did and what they could do better for that. So the whole thing is pulled together with task three. So as you read the whole thing through, it should all flow as one big document that they've done. And just remind them again about the photographic evidence as well. Get used to that, looking at the images you've taken to support what you've done, and also make sure it's clear and ready for uploading for you to make life easier at the end. I think that's it, unless you've got any questions on that.
We'll do the questions at the end of the presentation.
Okay.
We've only got another half an hour. Okay, thank you so much for your input there. I really appreciate you supporting me today.
Welcome.
Now we're going to look at Key Stage 5 Level 2 Hairdressing. As we can see here, the qualification structure of 5 units, total qualification time, and the assessment requirements, which is the theory exam, the synoptic assignment, and the employer involvement. Sorry. So I'll hand over to Debbie now, who will talk about the assignment brief for this qualification.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I've just made a couple of notes here, really, what we've seen ongoing. One of the things Brenda's just raised, which was on task one, we still get where people have not put their planned images. So what they're planning to achieve, that image, so that we can see what they're expecting the outcome to be. Also, for all 3 of the synoptics, there's a minimum requirement for two clients for the hairdressing synoptics. Sometimes we've had with the colouring one where students have done their highlights and perhaps then done an infill of colour. We would recommend that centres keep within the level 2 foundation syllabus. We're well aware that some students may do that as a regular thing even. But obviously, if they were to make a mistake, then that is reflective in their marking and their observation on the day. And obviously, they're not required to do that. That would be considered more a level 3 technique. So obviously, keeping to those foundation services is something that we've noticed and I would highlight. Also lately, obviously fashion trends dictate, I know, but we are finding that a lot of learners are defaulting to using lightning product for their highlighting services. Whilst there's nothing wrong with this at all, we do find that then their discussion in their task their task 1 and perhaps later in their task 3 is very, very limited as far as showing their knowledge and understanding across the depth and breadth of the colour unit. You know, what we often see is I'm going to use a lightening product to get lift. You know, there's no mentions of how many levels of lift, whether they're going, what their product mix, whether they're going to use a different hydrogen peroxide strength to start with because of timing. There's nothing about the development times and the fact that there isn't a set development maybe for a lightener, you know, whereas students that use colour or colour and lightener, they tend to talk about their colour mixes and why that colour mix is a certain, you know, the ratio is a certain way, and so you tend to find more of that knowledge and understanding coming through to justify the marks that are being awarded. So that's one of the things that maybe centres might want to discuss with candidates. Also, you know, yeah, they might talk about just applying a toner and not, you know, what product that is, how it might be mixed, why they might be using that rather than something else. Maybe that's to do with the product type, you know, the counteraction of colour. You know, they just put, I'll be applying a toner, and obviously that shows that, you know, it's very limited as to the knowledge and understanding that shows. One of the other things that we notice is the task 2 pro forma isn't always, or doesn't seem to always be in use. Now obviously the aftercare that a candidate plans to give on their task 1 can be sometimes significantly different to what they might give during the performance, and this should be recorded on their task 2 pro forma. So please can centres make sure that they are providing that pro forma for the students to sort of know to make notes as they go along, or perhaps at the end of the synoptic, because there are differences between what's planned and then perhaps what actually happens in performance, and that needs to have been recorded so that we can see that when it comes to the marking at moderation. Technical terminology is another one. We frequently get things like the candidate's going to do a 1 length cut and then layer it, rather than talking about their guidelines that they're putting in, blunt cutting not rather than club cutting. Those terms that if you're studying an area you would be expected to be able to use sort of quite easily. The above shoulder requirement for the 1 length cut is something I want to reiterate. We're still seeing some 1 length cuts that are not above shoulder at assessment, and clear views of 1, how much is being cut off, and 2, when the colour, you're showing the colour in the regrowth area and everything, those top of the head views should be very, very clear that how close they've got to the root, you know, whether the whole regrowth area has been covered, you know, on their regrowth colours. I mean, there are a lot of the areas. I mean, task 3, I would reiterate that the candidates tend to talk about what they did, and obviously we can kind of see that, you know, it needs to be what went well, what didn't go so well, and perhaps more importantly, how they would change their performance next time to improve that outcome for the client. That's actually what we want to see within that task 3 coming through. So I mean, that's really the main observations that have been made in the, you know, previous years that we would kind of like to see maybe change moving forwards a little bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. We've also got our other 2 briefs. So the cutting and styling and the colouring services. I mean, obviously they are taken from the main qualification. Would you like to reiterate anything here?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I want to pull up here, because really I've talked about the synoptics generally before, is that the assignment brief for the cutting and styling has changed this year. So please do make sure you're using this year's paperwork and not any previous year, because the timing for the overall assessment has changed and the hair up requirement has changed. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. So now we have our Key Stage 5 Level 3 hairdressing. As we can see, the qualification structure of your mandatory units and your optional units, which is a minimum of 60 guided learning hours from any one of these optional units. total qualification time, and the assessment requirements and employer involvement that is required to achieve this full qualification. And now I'm going to hand over to Brenda.
To Caroline.
Oh, Caroline, sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Caroline Puckett, Principal Moderator for Level 3. Really, just to reiterate several points that Sarah brought up when she was talking about the slides. PowerPoint, when you're putting your students' work together, this is one of the best way of showcasing the students' work. So on the first slide, if you have the name, candidate's number and centre number, and then go down the slides, you have your before pictures, all of the cut, then before of the creative colour, and then before of the hair up. Make sure that you have your during cuts, your during pictures for your colour, and for your hair up preparation you need during pictures for. You really don't want to overdo the pictures, so really sort of like your 4 360 pictures before and after, and then a couple of pictures during. So you don't need loads and loads of pictures, as long as you are showing where you've prepared the hair up and the application and techniques of your colour. Remember, in the colour correction, it is creative colour, so you have got to put an element of colour correction in. Make sure that your students are working to level 3 colour correction, because putting a full head tint on and then putting a toner over the top, while it does cover an element of colour correction, it is not covering level 3 work, which is then going to limit the marks that the candidate can achieve, that you are going to award for the candidate. Make sure, as Debbie has said, that you do a minimum of 2 clients across the Synoptic. The candidate, if they're doing a colour and a cut, I really would advise that they also think about their cut, that it fits in with the colour, because I have seen, when I've been out in the past visiting centres, some lovely balayage taking place, excellent work, and then the hair is restyled and there's no colour left. So really important that the candidates think about this, because they are now level 3 candidates. So your colour and cut, if they're on the same client, should enhance each of them. The other thing that you need to be aware of, that males and female models can be used, providing you're meeting the criteria of the brief and that the cut is a restyle and it meets the brief. You can use male or females, it's not a problem. Also, when you're writing your PO forms, make sure that you are really clear and justify your wording. Make sure that the marks you are awarding are being recorded on your forms, because this then, when it comes to us as moderators, we know where you're putting the marks, where you're giving the candidate marks and where you're taking marks away. So if a candidate makes a mistake, record it, but if a candidate shows you exceptional knowledge, record this too, because it all justifies your marks you are offering. Can you also make sure, when the candidates do evaluations, task 3, that they are doing an evaluation so it's reflective of their work? So this isn't about how they did it and reciting the method. This is about what could they do better, what went well, what could they change. So these are really, same as Debbie said, bringing the whole task 1, task 2 and task 3 together as a whole, to make sure they are gaining the maximum marks that they can. And then the last one, question that I often get asked, can level 3 candidates be supported? Yes, they can be supported in salon by level 1s and 2s for removing colour and shampooing, because obviously they've already achieved this in their level 2 qualification. Lovely. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I really appreciate your support. Now let's move on to preparation for delivery of the Synoptic Assignment, which again, really important. So we've got some best practice here. So it's all about the standardisation for myself, and we have the forms, we've got the Synoptic Assignment and recording forms there for you to use. So internal standardisation is vital in ensuring that centre marking of the synoptic is consistent, reliable and accurate. Where centre marking is not standardised, there is an increased risk that the moderation process will result in an adjustment being made. So it is an important process to understand and implement. And these qualifications do have a visiting end moderation. We're just going to light touch on the assessment objectives here for you to have a look at. So your learners will be, you won't be assessing them, you'll be marking them against AO1 to AO5. So AO1 to AO5 are used in all qualifications for assignments. Each AO is assigned a number of marks available for use during marking, effectively generating a mark scale for each AO. The marking grid available as part of the qualification assessment pack gives the indication of where different performances lie on each AO scale. For exams, the specification they only use for the written exam AO1, AO2 and AO4. Marks assigned as AO4 typically refer to higher level cognitive skills which require the candidates to draw together understanding from across the qualification and analyse comparisons, proposals and justifications, often to answer questions related to a piece of or source of material. In both the exam and the synoptic assignment, the weighting assigned to each AO will remain the same each year, ensuring candidates' results are based on the assessment of the same profile and characteristics each year. Tutors should explain to candidates that the AOs describe the basis of marking of the synoptic assignment, and for each AO help them understand what good looks like. It is not, however, recommended that the full marking grid for the assignment be shared with the candidates. This is simply because it's designed to place the marking on a scale and does not represent the standard candidate, what the standard candidate should be aiming for. It's important to note that the mark bands do not align to grades, like a band 1 is not a pass, a band 2 is not a merit, and a band 3 is not a distinction. We do not know that detail until the end of the year. The more detailed explanation of AOs in the marking guide is in the marking guide, and the subject-specific details in the qualification handbook are useful for this purpose. And we have our recording documents, and we have a link here to these recording documents from our website. So the required documentation remains the same. We have not amended our requirements. Please only provide photographic evidence we request. Your students won't get any extra marks for submitting more photographs. So really look at the synoptic brief and just see exactly what photographs we asked for there. Each synoptic is a copy of 3 documents we require per student: the practical observation form, the candidate record form, and of course the declaration of authenticity. The practical observation form must be completed whilst the synoptic is being observed. It is solely an account of the process taking place, and the candidate record form is where you justify the marks you are awarding. So this is an account of the whole synoptic and needs to be agreed by all parties who may have been involved in the marking. I'll bring you back to this wonderful little tool because you've all been assessing on VRQs, MVQs, maybe endpoint assessment, but this is a moderation and marking guide, and I really do believe that this document should be a little Bible till you get your head around it. It gives you a really good interpretation of the assessment objectives and the marking grids. So again, use this for the qualification handbook, sample assessments, and they're available on our website. Now we're just going to have an overview to the written exam. Now we have a new webinar taking place on the 7th of February between 3:30 and 4:30, and this is going to be run by the moderators, and it's going to be a new one on the theory exam. So I've put the link there on this slide for you to all register, because this is going to be the most up-to-date webinar for preparing for the theory exam. It is generic, so it's not just for hair and beauty, it's for every technical qualification because it's exam techniques. So it'll give you lots of hints and tips in preparing your learner for the theory exam. Again, I'm coming back into the qualification handbook and the exam guide For the exam guide, you need the exam guide to make sure that you're ticking off in the qualification handbook what critical knowledge will be in that written exam. So how's the exam structured? Each exam has a total of 60 marks and is made up of approximately 8 to 10 short answer questions with one extended response. Now that extended response question to me is a biggie, and that's like a mini case study. So I think that one I will be looking at all the other extended exam questions and getting my learners to work with those now. Your short answer questions are used to confirm the breadth of knowledge and understanding, and the extended response question allows candidates to demonstrate that higher level and integrated understanding throughout written discussion, analysis and evaluation. This question also ensures the exam can differentiate between those learners who are just able and those who are higher achieving. More details about the examples of question types are given in section 3 in the exam document, in the exam guide. So again, assessment objectives. The exams are based on the following set of assessment objectives, which is AO1, AO2 and AO4, and they're designed to allow the candidate's response to assess knowledge over these categories. So recollection of knowledge, understanding of concept theories and processes, and integrated application of knowledge and understanding. We have past papers on our website. We have 2 past papers on the website for you to use, and you can also make your own your own papers up if you so wish to from the qualification handbook, looking at the topics that will be in that exam. I've put in here for you the booking windows of the I've put in here the achievement rates. As you can see, I lost my word there. The achievement rates over the qualifications, which are really, really good achievement rates. We're really happy with these. But you know what? If we use all the tools that are on the website, I'm sure we can push those achievement rates up even further. So here you can see that the results released, the spring exam, the start of the series and the end of the series, and we also have on this page when the level 3 and level 2 results will be released in August. Again, employer involvement. These are just suggested types of activities to support employer involvement for all Key Stage 5 technical qualifications. And obviously the requirement is it is a requirement for learners to undertake meaningful employment activities in order to achieve qualifications. I think one really good, if I was in college, I think one of the things I would be looking at is bringing maybe local employers in to help with some mock assessments and give feedback to learners, the sort of the starter, main course and dessert of their mock assessment. And finally, here we're going to look at further support that we have for you. We have our enhanced smart screen, and now this enhanced smart screen for me is standardisation. It's everything's in a one-stop shop. So we have the consultation sheets in there that you can use. All the units are in there, and we break each unit down into scheme of work, sample lesson plans, PowerPoints. We have our e-learning as well. We have our videos, and these videos are actually being updated and will be on our new smart screen. We're no extra charge for that. We're just updating the videos for hairdressing and barbering. Learner journals. Now these are downloadable from the 6002 webpage. Again, I think these are absolutely fantastic for learners. It really, really does help them, it helps them to see what they need to cover and record what they've learned, and then also go back to you and say, I'm not really too sure about this. Can you help me with this? So, I think they're a valuable tool to allow your learners. And we don't ask for a portfolio in a technical qualification, but it does help the learner to put all the handouts that you may want to use into the units of the learner journal. Again, we have our 2 hairdressing books here for you. We have our level 2 and our level 3 hairdressing books. We have our tutor resources, smart screen, and every technical qualification. In fact, every qualification that's at Teen Girls now. Once learners have been registered and you've sent their email into the technical moderation team, they will be awarded a digital credential at the end of their qualification. And our learners love anything that's visual that goes on social media. So this is a free of charge digital credential. Some general centre contacts for technical qualifications. If you have anything you know, that was required by the technical qualification team, we just have put there, it's centre support team, that's just our customer support team. And you've got me. I would be your first port of call for anything that was related to the skills, the actual skills of the hairdressing or barbering. So you've got my details here, and Emma, the industry manager's details. I just want to bring your attention to keep up to date. If you go onto that link, it'll take you straight to our updates. And if you haven't already signed up for the updates, I would suggest that you do, because these updates are really important, and we can't keep your emails due to data protection. So I can't just send the updates out to you. So I would say, you know, sign up for your updates as soon as you can. Again, we have our survey link and QR code here. Please do go onto the survey and fill that in and let us know what more you want from us, how more can we support you with your delivery and help you to showcase your learners' skills. Now that's going to bring us into the questions. So ladies, do we have any questions in our box? We don't have any. I've just gone to the questions tabs, ladies. Can you go on there for me as well and see if you can see any questions from our attendees?
I can't see any questions, but it does look like Anne Hall might have her hand up.
Oh,
Yeah,
Anne,
I can't see
would you
any.
like to? Well, you can't unmute yourself, Anne, but would you like to put a question into the chat box?
Yeah, I've tried to unmute her, but I think she's muted her end.
Yeah, I think so. Are you there, Anne? Just put yes into the question box if you don't mind, and then we can see. Give her a few minutes. Yeah. Oh, you don't have any. Okay, Anne. Thank you very much. But you're waving to us. Oh, okay then. Well, we are 5 minutes early on the webinar. So if anybody doesn't have any questions, would any of the principal and moderators like to say anything at this stage?
I think we've covered most of it, Sarah, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think it's just important, just as Debbie mentioned before, is to make sure that centres have got the latest version of the Synoptic Assignment, which is dated 2021-2022 on it, because there are a few on the website now. So it's just making sure they're using the correct one.
Yeah, that's super. Okay, well, I would just like to thank Debbie, Caroline and Brenda for supporting me today on your webinar for 6002 Hairdressing and Barbering Technical Qualifications. It's been a pleasure delivering today with my colleagues, and I think we've not done a bad job there, ladies. So I'd like to thank you very much for supporting me.
Thank you, you're welcome.
And I'd like to thank you all for taking part on the webinar, and I wish you a successful theory exam and synoptic this year with your learners. And I'll say goodbye and have a lovely day.